Good morning, LPES. So I'm going to tell you a secret. It is not morning right now. It's nighttime. It's Thursday night. Nope, Wednesday night. And I almost made a somewhat big mistake. And I know we talk about mistakes a lot in school, especially when kids meet with me and when they meet with me after having made perhaps a mistake. And I always like to point out that we're all humans, right? Even the grown-ups in our school, even the teachers of your class, and even grown-ups make mistakes sometimes. So I thought this was a great time for me to point out a mistake that I kind of almost made. I caught it at the very last minute because I almost started getting ready to go to sleep and realized I did not finish my Friday feeling video for you for tomorrow, which is actually Thursday. So it's kind of a weird week with us only having 4 days of school. And I think my mind was still thinking we had more time, but we do not, and that's okay. So friends, this whole month, we've been talking about mental health. Right? We've been talking about what those two words together mean. We've heard a lot of different definitions from some of the other professionals in our school. At the beginning of the month, we got to hear from Miss Nazaro before she had to leave. We got to hear from Miss Calandrillo, our school psychologist, 2 weeks ago. And we got to hear from Miss Viscuso, who did that funny take on MTV Cribs, if you remember, last week. And all of that was so wonderful to hear these different perspectives about what mental health means. Talking about how it is something that we can't see from the outside, right? We can't always know how someone is doing emotionally by looking at them. Sometimes it's clear if they might be crying, but other times they may look totally fine, but inside they're really hurting. We talked about how mental health is just like physical health and how we have to work to take care of both of them in order to be truly healthy. We've talked about how with mental health, we need to have things in place, things that we can do for ourselves to take care of our mental health. So all of that being said, I have one last interview for this week, and that is with Mrs. Pierre over at the middle school. Now, my fourth graders, in exactly 1 week from today, if you're watching this on Thursday, you are going to be getting to meet Mrs. Pierre when you go up to the middle school for your fourth grade orientation. And I love having her on here because it really gives you all a chance to get to know her a little bit better before you go up to the middle school and get to start working with her if you need to. So I'm going to pass it over to myself and also Mrs. Pierre, who's going to talk a little bit more about Mental Health Awareness Month and is going to answer all those questions that we've been doing this past month with those other professionals in our school, such as what does mental health mean to you? Like, what's your definition of it? What do you do for your own mental health? And what made you go into the mental health field? But before I pass it over, I thought I would answer a few of those questions too, because I've been asking everybody else, but I wanted to kind of share my own answers with you also. So for me, I know I've kind of given you my definition on what mental health is throughout the course of this past month. For me, it means taking care of our emotions, taking care of our inside selves almost, if that makes sense, the pieces of us that we can't necessarily see from the outside, and trying our best to really care for ourselves when we need a break, or care for ourselves when we need a friend, or we need to talk to someone, or we need to do something that brings us joy. One of the other questions I like to ask is, what do you do for your mental health? And I want you all to really think about this right now before I pass it over to that other interview. What is something that you do to help yourself get through those moments when you feel an uncomfortable feeling? What do you do to get through when you feel sad or scared or overwhelmed or tired? I know at this time of year, a lot of us might be feeling all of those at different points. You know, we can't always make those emotions go away. I was talking to a student about this earlier this week. We can't always push those emotions aside and just make them go away. But when we acknowledge them and when we're able to say, I'm feeling really sad right now, or I'm feeling really angry, or I'm feeling overwhelmed or confused, when we're able to say them out loud, and then we're able to do something that helps us cope, helps us get through those uncomfortable emotions. It helps our own mental health. So I'm trying to think of another way to kind of explain this to everybody. My favorite analogy, my favorite way to describe it is almost like the weather, right? We can't control the weather. We can't change it. Sometimes if it's raining and we really want to go outside, we just need to kind of be patient and wait until the weather changes again. Wait until the rain stops and the sun comes out. The great thing is it will always change. Just like our emotions will always at some point change. Sometimes it'll take longer than other times, but they're always going to have that moment where they kind of flip to something different. So acknowledging that can help us to maintain good mental health. Reminding ourselves that this feeling isn't going to last forever. And then, like I said, doing things to help you cope with those uncomfortable emotions. So I'll give you some examples. For myself, I love being outside. Whether I'm walking or hiking or running or just even sitting outside in the sun and relaxing, I love being outside. That helps my mental health. Sometimes it's talking with a good friend. I know for me, if I talk with my family or my friends about what is troubling me, that might help me feel better. Sometimes we need to distract ourselves, and that's okay too. That's not to say you should be on your video games all weekend, but sometimes doing something that makes us stop thinking of whatever it is that's bothering us in that moment can help us to turn things around a little bit quicker. So reading a book is a great example. Or listening closely to the things that your teacher is trying to teach you in class. When you're focusing on that, sometimes it slows down the chatter that's happening in our mind. Another one for me is music. Whether I'm playing music, singing music, listening to music, dancing to music, all of those kind of help me get through those uncomfortable times, those uncomfortable emotions that happen to us. So I hope that in listening to this, you're able to think of some ways that you can take care of your own mental health, some ways that you can help yourself get through those times when you might not be feeling happy, you might not be feeling joyful, you might not be feeling hopeful, because they'll come, unfortunately. But you also have ways to get through them. You have things that you can do to help get through those tough moments. And if you don't, that's when you have to reach out to Mrs. Heffler, or when you go up to the middle school, Mrs. Pierre, which, speaking of, I'm going to pass it over to myself and her right now so you can hear a little bit more about her answers for Mental Health Awareness Month. All right, I am so excited, my LPES friends, because I've actually gone to a totally different place. I'm not in our school right now, and I am up at the middle school. So fourth graders, you guys are going to be coming here really soon, and all of our younger students, it's a great chance for you to kind of get to know the middle school a little bit more, and someone really important up at the middle school who I know is going to be helping you guys as you all come up here, and that is Mrs. Pierre. So,
hello everybody.
Mrs. Pierre, I'm so happy that you chose to sit down with us today. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Really love it. And it's so nice that then our younger students get to know you a little bit more and get to become familiar with you so that when they come up here, they have another familiar face to look out for.
Exactly. You got a friend already.
Exactly. Exactly. So, Mrs. Pierre, as you know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yeah.
And for the past few weeks, we've been doing this cool thing. I think it's cool that I've been getting to sit down with some of our other mental health workers and hear a little bit more about them, about who they are, what their role is, and our friends at LPS get to learn all about them too.
Fantastic.
Cool. So why don't we go ahead and get started then. First question. In the past few weeks, we've been talking a lot about mental health and what it is, what it means. So what does mental health mean to you?
Sure. So to me, mental health means the overall health of your mental well-being. That would mean your feelings, how you act on those feelings, how you respond to those feelings, your thoughts. Your thoughts could be like your inner monologue. Like when something happens, what are you saying to yourself, and then kind of what's coming out of your mouth. How are you interacting with your friends? How are you interacting with your family members, your peers, your teachers? So it's the health, kind of like the health of your brain and how your brain impacts the way that you act.
Ooh, yeah. I like all the different aspects that you talked about, that it's, you know, not just how we are with ourselves, but also like with our friends and our family, and it kind of goes into all different areas of our life.
Absolutely. It's like, you know, if you're not in a great mood, sometimes we accidentally spread that bad mood by maybe not being as nice to others. So that's the way in which, you know, our mental health impacts other people. Or the flip side, maybe you're in a really great mood and you're smiling to a lot of people in the hallway and you're saying hello, and now you're passing on an even better mood.
Yeah, for sure. Always wanting to spread that positive energy around as much as we can. All right. So what do you like to do for your own mental health?
Okay. So over the pandemic, I am one of those people that bought a Peloton. So I am on the Peloton.
Ooh. Do you guys know what a Peloton is?
Do you?
I know.
It's basically the greatest thing ever. So it is I bought the stationary bike. So I ride the bike a few times a week. And other times during the week, I do yoga or bar. I see Mrs. Bell in the mornings on the Peloton. So shout out to my workout buddy.
Nice.
And I do that every day. And it makes me happy. And they talk about positive things. And it actually, after taking one of the classes, it inspired me to do one of the bulletin boards out here. So I have a bulletin board with inspirational quotes and a mirror to try to boost everybody's, you know, positive mental health and their morale in the school.
That's so great. I love that. I think that's something that we've tried to talk about on Friday Feelings a lot, of exercise, moving our body, whether it's as simple as going for a walk or as, you know, intense as using like a Peloton to get a real workout in, but how important it is for us to move our bodies. And it's especially important for my older students who love to be on that screen, love to be playing those video games. I know it can be fun even for grown-ups too, but a great reminder of how important it is for our mental health to take a break from that and move in whatever way possible.
Absolutely. This weekend, actually, we did a family stretch together. My son, my husband, and I all did their 20-minute mental health awareness stretch.
Oh, nice.
And we all did it together, and we found out that my son is super flexible in odd ways. But it was neat to learn that about him, because we didn't know, and I don't think he even knew how flexible he is. So that was cool.
Nice. I really love the idea of like working out as a family too. Something you could do with your moms, your dads, grandmas, grandpas, your brothers, sisters. What a nice idea.
Yeah.
Very neat. Cool. So talking about mental health, you are one of our two school counselors.
Yes.
One right here, one right here. So it's nice because you guys have gotten to hear from Miss Calandrillo, who is our school psychologist. You got to hear from Miss Viscuso last week, who is our school social worker. And now you get to hear from someone who does the same job as me. Mrs. Pierre is a school counselor, but our jobs are still kind of different. Yes. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about what your role is in the mental health field.
Sure. So my role at LPMS, I wear a lot of hats.
You do.
So I wear a lot of hats here. So I, you know, as far as frontline kind of things, my door is always open usually, and so kids will come in to talk if they're having a problem. It could be a conflict with a peer. They might be upset about something. They need a space to calm down. There are certain kids that I check in with regularly to see how they're doing, to make sure that, you know, they might be going through something difficult at the time. So to make sure that it's not negatively impacting their friendships or their grades or their attendance. So those are things that we may talk about in here. I oversee the second step social emotional learning curriculum here at LPMS. Right now the kids get that in their foundations classes. So I make sure that's running smoothly. I'm also the school testing coordinator, the 504 plan coordinator. I help Mr. Winston with the master schedule. I coordinate where the kids, you know, our 8th graders, some of them go to Boonton High School, some go to Pequannock, some go to the academies. So I help them with their applications. I communicate with the high schools to bring in information to the kids. We do some career planning. Right now I'm coordinating elective choices for the high school. Then I'm going to have to do elective choices for us.
And electives are when you get to pick what classes you take.
Yeah.
So in elementary school, you guys all have to take the same classes. But once you come up to the middle school, you get some choice in your schedule. And then once you go up to high school, you get even more of a choice, which is really cool. You get to start picking.
Our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders get to choose between, right now it's STEM, performing arts and bands, and then the 8th graders have an option for an art elective. We're even looking next year into seeing if we can do some kind of a chorus elective and then a drama elective that they're somewhat separate. So it's a lot of planning and looking at data, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but things like that.
I have to say, do you mind if I show them?
Yeah, please.
So one of the cool things, as we're talking about Mrs. Pierre's role, I love this because you can see she has this big giant wall in her office. And that is all like scheduling and figuring out who's going to what classes and what time they are and things like that. So you have that over there, but then you also have this really cool relaxing spot over here that just makes me want to like curl up and talk about whatever I'm feeling and all that good stuff. So Mrs. Pierre, you really do wear many different hats, and I love to see how our roles kind of overlap, where, you know, Mrs. Pierre does do the same thing as I do, where she's helping students who are having a tough time, helping kids that are having a hard time with each other, if you're having a conflict with a friend. But you also do so much more than that too, and really help to get our students ready to go on to the next step, which is exciting. Not that you guys need to think about that just yet. You have time before 8th grade, but a really cool thing and overall. So, all right. One last question. I have to say, I have found this month, this is probably the hardest question I ask.
Okay.
What made you want to go into mental health?
So when I was in high school, I took a psychology class and my senior year, and I fell in love. I fell in love with thoughts and feelings and why people do the things that they do, and learning about mental health and what can impact mental health. I was in love. So when I went to college, I decided to major in psychology because I loved it. And if you major in psychology, you have to get a master's degree to get a job. So in thinking about what I wanted to focus on for my master's, I thought about school counseling because I like working with kids. And I like the idea of when you work in a school, you have access to like the general population. Whereas if you're a therapist or clinician, you have access to a small population. It could be kids that maybe, you know, they're kids that maybe only their parents can afford counseling, or, you know, families that are able to get their kids to counseling, or counseling that's available in the area. Whereas when you're a school counselor, you can truly impact your entire student body. So that's why I chose school counseling. But to backtrack, it was really the psychology class. And funny, ironically enough, the teacher who taught that class tagged me last night on social media. It was a graduation picture.
Oh my gosh.
17-year-old Christina with friends.
Wild.
Yeah, but she still teaches those classes and teaches language arts at the high school I went to, and you know, she's still impacting people. So
that's so great.
Yeah.
Wow, I love that answer.
Yeah.
Love that. That's great. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing.
Sure.
And I really appreciate you sitting down to talk with us today, to being a guest star on our Friday Feeling video. And I think it's just such a nice way for our students then to kind of put a name to a face and to know who you are, and then be able to look out for you when they come up here to the middle school.
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing 4th grade for orientation. And shout out to my buddies in 2nd grade that I read to, and everybody else. I love coming down to the elementary school to say hi, and you know, excited to see you guys in the future.
Very cool. All right, well, thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Oh, Mrs. Pierre, do you want to say our sign-off phrase?
Sure, what is it?
Oh, here, I'll listen to you. It's stay kind, LPES. All right?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Stay kind, LPES, and have a griftastic day.
Oh, what?